Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about XCN, right? XCN, we haven't talked about it in a couple of days. And you know me that I am pretty high on this coin, which is why I also cover it consistently. Now, guys, let me know, do you want consistent updates on this coin? It will be mainly technical analysis. And of course, the more consistent it is, the more peace of mind you'll have, but also the less different each video is going to be, right? Because, for example, if I did it every single day, then of course I could only really present you the new data that happened in the last 20 to 24 hours, right? So, keep that in mind. Do you want to, every day, every other day, 2 to 3 times a week, maybe 2 times a week, maybe once a week? Let me know what you guys want. We will also cover news here and there, but mainly we are going to be sticking to the technical analysis. As you guys know, that is my specialty on this channel. And also, I do believe technical analysis is king for the majority, right? For the most part. Anyways, let's just jump right into it. So, obviously, if you don't know, I guess I gotta look and tell you, but there was a huge pump right in the middle of January. This thing went absolutely nuclear after consolidating, kind of going sideways for a while, right? Pretty much from, let's just say, the beginning of March until the end of December. This coin was, selling off, going up and down, sideways, but it's mainly going sideways. And then we finally exploded in the middle of January. We had a huge rally, right? I mean, a huge rally going upwards of even practically like 19 to 20 times your money, which is insane, right? Which is insane. And you know what? Technically, you could debate if we're going back, right? Even back in 2023, price was kind of just ranging this box, and then it finally exploded, right? 2 weeks of greatness. Ever since then, right, it's been kind of selling off and going sideways, but do not worry because all this is going to be is something very similar to what we had down here, okay? Now, here's the thing, people, right? You have to realize these types of crazy pumps like a 20x are extremely rare, and they usually happen when something consolidates for a while, right? You could argue that this was consolidating for a whole damn year, which is why it was able to explode. Okay. So you can't expect, big explosions every 2 months. That's just not how the markets work. Altcoin season is getting closer, right? Altcoin season is getting closer, which obviously will allow those explosions to be happening at a crazy rate consistently for weeks, which we'll discuss in just a little bit. But yeah, we can see ever since then we have sold off. We have bounced up a little bit, but generally we are still kind of going sideways and trending down for the most part. Okay. You can see in recent times on the weekly, right? We do have this low of roughly, 12.5 cents, right? We can see the black candle closes down here. Then we had a nice buy candle. And then in June, we had a sell candle, but this sell candle closed roughly at 14 cents, which did confirm a higher low, right? It confirmed a higher low on the weekly, which is great because that's like the first time in a very long time that we actually got some type of reversal confirmations. Now, here's the tricky part, ladies and gentlemen. We are under this huge, massive zone of, let's just say, 17 cents, more or less, right? We are under a huge zone right now. This area marked up is the last real relevant kind of resistance before then we get to other levels, right? We have this one that is super relevant. And then the next one that is relevant for us, I would argue, is roughly around 22 cents. Okay. Now, the markets do like to go from zone to zone. So if we were looking to be, overtaking this, we would want to flip and start closing above 17.5 cents consistently to then flip this resistance and turn it into a big, nice support, right? Because when we're below it, it's practically a roof. When we're above it, it turns into a floor, right? We can see multiple times on the daily, right? We have one tap here, a couple taps here, multiple taps here, 2 wick rejections, right? Another 2 wick rejections. And we can see, right? Despite us having a big daily candle on Friday, we actually did technically close below this big zone, which is not ideal, right? It is not ideal because if this weekly does end pretty weak, there's a high probability that we will, at the start of next week, pump up one more time, but then have some type of further pullback. Now, the pullback doesn't technically have to be crazy, right? We could go as low as, even down to 14.5 cents. And as long as we kind of maintain a higher low, right? Boom, close somewhere over here, then technically we are still following structure, right? Because we have this low, we have a higher low, and then we have another higher low, right? So we could be potentially looking to be squeezing up, right? Let me draw it out for you so it's very, very simple of what could be a possibility. Like, right? If we do close like this, the next week could possibly be a push up, then, rejection further down. If we hold well, then we could be looking at another attempt, potentially something like this. And as long as we keep creating higher lows, even if we're struggling to push out, then we could very well break through. Something similar, right? Something similar is like Caspa, right? Caspa was in a huge range. We can see Caspa was in a huge range. It broke out of its 7.4 cent to 7.9 cent range. It exploded past this first green box. Then it went to the second green box, the next relevant roof. It tapped off it. Now it's pulling back. Now we're looking to see if we can respect this 8 cent zone. And once we do, we're looking to attack this 9.2 cents. So I'm looking for something very, very extremely similar to XCN, right? Extremely similar. That is what I am personally looking for. Okay. Look, overall, when we go to something like the monthly, right? The monthly actually does look pretty solid. And it looks solid for most cryptos as well, right? We can see the last 2 months weren't the best selling pressure candles in terms of closes. In fact, in terms of closes, they were very, very weak. If we compare these last 2 months, just in terms of pure size, I mean, guys, right? It's very, very simple. You just have to look. Do these two selling candles look bigger than this one big one? No. So what does that indicate? A high probability that we will most likely have a good July. And if not a good July, then a good August, right? It does indicate that there's a high chance that we will be looking to be recovering and pushing higher and higher over the next couple of weeks, right? Look, technically, at the end of the day, right? You could argue that we could even pull back all the way to 10 cents. And as long as we have a higher low, that it's still technically on a really big time frame, being a higher low. But I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case because I do think Bitcoin is going to be moving very, very solid. Now, here's the thing, right? Even though Bitcoin is going to be going up consistently, I still expect Bitcoin dominance to be going up consistently, right? There's zero confirmation that Bitcoin dominance will be crashing. Zero confirmation, which means, you know, the only way our altcoins consistently go up is A, through Bitcoin, and B, also more money coming into the markets. But these types of pumps are going to be more fundamental. They're going to be slower, but it doesn't mean they're going to be worse. They're just simply setting up for altcoin season, right? So do not expect the biggest of big gains, right? We can see Bitcoin is looking very, very solid on the week. It recently just broke out of this 2 month range. And you could even argue that over here, right? Boom, this range over here, we were ranging for roughly half a year. Yes, we had our little stint where we go down, but generally speaking, you can see in this green box, with this included, we've been kind of just going sideways for a very, very long time. But yeah, that is it ultimately, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy. Bitcoin looks to be expanding over the next couple of weeks, which means XCN should see some type of gains. No, it is still not XCN's times to shine, but that is okay because we are building up for the big bang that will happen sooner than later. Love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.